There's one mistake that you're making, folks. I have these goals in their life and dreams. That's just a big mistake.
Why do you think Koreans in particular are susceptible to these types of conditions?
Koreans are smart and hardworking, but we also have to recognize that that's going to have costs.
Right.
We've studied at the Harvard Business School. We found in this research is that if you don't know what to do and you have a lot of unanswered questions in your life, one of the things that I recommend is
안녕하세요. 전 세계 리더들의 지혜를 들여다보는 시간, 미국 현지에서 함께하게 된 이소은입니다. 오늘은 30년간 행복을 연구해온 전 하버드 교수님이자 수백 명의 CEO와 억만장자를 코칭해온 아서 브룩스 교수님을 모셨습니다. Professor Brooks, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be with 지식인사이드 and looking forward to talking to your wonderful audience all around the world.
Yes.
And congratulations.
Thank
the new
you.
host.
Thank you. And congratulations on being the first guest.
Oh, thank you. I'm so delighted.
I just want to start off with the course that you taught at Harvard.
Right.
So it was called Leadership and Happiness.
That's right.
And I heard that it was one of the most popular courses ever at the school, almost to the point that there was a Zoom link that was shared illicitly. Is that true?
Yeah, no, for the longest time, this is a class, an elective that the students would take in the second year. And there's a lot of competition. Usually had 180 students enrolled and 400 on the waiting list.
Wow.
So they were looking for ways to kind of get the insight from the class, and they say, are there other ways that I can get it? And it turned out that a lot of them were using the COVID link and passing it around. And so that was the illegal Zoom link they thought I was not aware of. They're good students, I have to say.
Very resourceful.
They're very resourceful,
Yes.
and I admire that.
What was it about the class? Like, what did you teach that drew such a reception?
They want to be happier, and that's what people want. That's what people want in their lives. They want to be happier people. They want to have happier children. They want to bring more happiness to others. And it turns out that just studying business doesn't do that. I mean, business is great. I'm a business school professor. But one of the things that I know is that the rewards of the world are not the secret to happiness out over the course of their MBA. So by the second semester of the second year, they're thinking, there's got other skills in my life that I really want. And they had heard that this is a class where they can get them. As we say in English, it wasn't the milkman, it was the milk. They wanted the content. It wasn't me, per se. And that's why it was such a popular course.
So how many years did you teach that course?
7 years at Harvard, but now at Vanderbilt, we'll be teaching the same class going forward.
Okay. So before we delve into what actually makes us happy, I want to ask a fundamental question.
Sure.
So based on your scientific research, how do you define happiness?
Yeah, and that's the first thing that I did when I came into this field. There have been a lot of people writing about happiness over the years. And the biggest problem is they don't have a good definition of happiness. Everybody has kind of their own sense of it.
It could be 100 different things.
It could be. And when I ask my students on the first day of class, what do you think you're studying? And they always say the same thing. They say, well, professor, I can't put it into words, but I know it when I feel it.
Oh, I see.
And what they're saying is that happiness is a feeling, but that's wrong. Happiness and the feeling of happiness are not the same thing. Feelings of happiness are evidence of actual happiness. Like the smell of dinner is evidence of dinner. It's not the same thing.
Right.
And so I went back to the best scientific definitions, and I also noticed what were the attributes of the lives of the happiest people. And what we found in this research is that the best definition of happiness is kind of like the definition of food. Definition of food with macronutrients, which is a combination of carbohydrates, protein, and fat.
Right.
The same thing with happiness. Happiness is a combination of enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. So you need to enjoy your life to be a happy person from day to day. You have to take satisfaction with your accomplishments, meaning you get joy after a struggle.
Right.
And you have to find the why of your existence, the meaning of your life. And those are the three big objectives, as it turns out. So when I'm teaching people how to be happier, I'm working on those three things. I test them to see where they're weak, and I give them techniques to get those things stronger. We make mistakes toward happiness a lot. And part of the reason we make mistakes is that we have impulses, animal impulses, that don't lead us to the happiest possible life. There's a reason for this. In evolution, Mother Nature wants us to be successful as a species. She wants us not to get eaten by a tiger. She wants us to get enough calories. She wants us to pass on our genes. She doesn't care if we're happy. Mother Nature couldn't care less if we're happy. And so the result of it is that we actually have to make decisions that sometimes are contrary to the things that we actually want. A lot of times, your impulses will be to do something that you probably shouldn't do with respect to being a happily married person, for example. You think, oh, I want to do that. That would make me happier. No, it won't. It actually wouldn't. And society today is pushing us to do all kinds of things that we would consider to be immoral, for example. But those are mistakes with respect to your long-term happiness. But it also might be having something to do with money. Trying to get as much money as you possibly can is a very normal human impulse, but that won't lead you to happiness either. So the result of it is that we have to make decisions, smart decisions, philosophical decisions, sometimes religious decisions about the people that we want to be, and then stand up to our own animal nature so that we can be happier people.
Before we started filming, we were talking about Korea a little bit, and it seems like you know a lot of Koreans.
I mean, it's okay. When one of the great things is that, Korea is a dynamic culture that sends successful people all around the world. I mean, if you're doing anything of importance in the United States, doctors and lawyers and engineers and CEOs and business people, tons of Koreans in there because Koreans are smart and hardworking and have high levels of initiative and change the world for the better.
And unfortunately, Koreans also have the highest rate of depression and burnout among all OECD countries. Why do you think Koreans in particular are susceptible to these types of conditions?
That's just the way it is. I mean, the higher the performing the culture, the higher the cost you're typically going to find. You're not going to find a country where people are just like slacking off all the time, but also burned out. I mean, burnout is a side effect of high productivity and hard work. And so it kind of follows from that. But we also have to recognize that that's going to have a cost to it, and we need to manage those costs. Now, maybe that means that we need policies for it, but we certainly do need cultural ways of dealing with this and talk about these things openly. And obviously you are, because you just brought it up.
Actually, it's not just in Korea. I know that the US also, and globally, there's been an uptick of depression and anxiety in young people, especially with the pandemic.
Right. And that's been happening more and more and more since 2008, 2009. We've seen it progressively. That's happening every place. The depression and anxiety epidemic that we see all around the world, in Korea, in the United States, and that's not because of work burnout. That's because of social media and screens.
I see.
That's because of the overuse of technology. People are looking at their phones. It's like glued to their hand, just like in the United States. I see whole families around the dinner table all over the world where everybody's looking at their phones, and well, surprise, surprise, people are getting depressed and anxious as a result of that. And that's the thing that actually needs to change.
Okay. So in the intro, we talked about how you have coached many leaders, executives, CEOs, all people that have achieved a great level of success. What kinds of people have you met, and are there any commonalities among them?
We've studied at the Harvard Business School, but we have studied the most successful CEOs. And strivers are people who just never stop. And a lot of the people that I work with, the biggest pathology, I would say, is that they tend to only really get satisfaction from succeeding in business, succeeding in their industry.
I see.
That makes them quite workaholic. And workaholism is really damaging, especially to your relationship. So a lot of the people that I see are the most successful people in the world that are struggling with their marriages. They're struggling having a relationship with their children. And I have to coach them on how to do less in their work so they can do more in their lives. That's one of the things that I find. Now, by the way, I'm very sympathetic to that. I'm a workaholic too. I like to work. I've been working 60, 80 hours a week my entire career, no matter what I've been doing. So when you're earlier in your career, so all the young people who are watching us today, you want to be the CEO. I know you want to be the CEO. That's why we're, Jisikenside, this is the great
there you go.
So you can become a CEO. But there's one mistake that you're making, folks. You think that when you get into the corner office, you're going to be happier. You're not. I have the data. I wish it were true. I was a CEO for 11 years.
You weren't happier?
I was not happier. And I was not happier.
Why is that?
And the reason is because the predominant emotions for CEOs are loneliness and anger. The worst time in the average worker's day is time spent with the boss. And the reason is not because the boss is bad. The boss might be great. The reason is because people don't like to be bossed. They don't like to be evaluated. You want to have lunch with somebody who's like might
judging
fire
you.
Yeah. So a lot of people they get elevated into the chief executive position, and then they find that they're really lonely because their old friends are different. They become very isolated, and they become angry because they thought they were going to have all this control, and they don't over their own lives and over the lives of other people. These are fundamentally relationship issues, and you need to learn how to relate to people differently when you actually become a leader. Is the way that works, and so that's relationship management for leaders is something I talk about an awful lot.
So is that your way of saying that loneliness is probably, they say it's lonely at the top, right?
Yeah, that is true, but also you need new relationships is what it comes down to. That's one of the reasons that the CEOs who tend to be happiest are those who have good marriages. Because your best friend is your roommate, is the person you're going to bed with every night. That should be your best friend. That's somebody who actually knows your secrets and who cares about you as a person, not as a CEO. You're not going to come home to your wife and she's going to say, "Hi, boss." I hope, right? I mean, and hi, honey, that's what you want, actually. And that's the kind of relationship you need to cultivate. You need friends outside, which is one of the reasons I coach a lot of people to go back to the people that they loved the most in college. When they were in college, that's when people make a lot of their early young adult best friendships, and going back and recultivating those friendships and going and golfing with those people.
As opposed to business contacts.
Exactly right. I mean, business contacts, that's business. But you need to actually cultivate the love in your life and the friendships in your life as well. Don't be lonely. Don't put up with that.
About relationships, and I want to segue to that a bit. Relationships are really, just as you said, they're so integral to us feeling happy in our lives.
Right.
What are some kinds of people that you should keep very close to you?
Sure. Now, the fundamental relationships that we need to keep close to us are our family members. And for some people, that's easy. Some people watching us, that's an easy thing to do. But for a lot of successful people, it actually isn't. I know a lot of people who have cold marriages, as a matter of fact. And the reason is because the striver in the marriage is gone all the time, and the spouse of the striver is lonely.
Yeah.
And they become very lonely as that works. So they don't know their children very well. So one of the things that I recommend is remember that when you're old and dying, your colleagues aren't going to be there. The people who work with you are not going to be standing around your bed. And at your funeral, nobody's going to talk about how many frequent flyer miles you have. That's not what's going to be happening. Either your family is going to be gathered around you talking about what a great husband, wife, child, parent, brother, sister that you were, or not.
Like the eulogy virtues.
Exactly right. As opposed to the resume virtues. Right. The second is actually what is to get real friends. And in my work, I talk an awful lot about how strivers, they struggle with friendship. I mean, all the CEOs watching us today, they have people around them constantly. And the people watching us, you never have a moment's peace, as a matter of fact. And you'll say, these are my friends. But are they real friends or deal friends? And real and deal are not the same thing.
No.
And we all kind of know what the difference is. Deal friends are useful people to us, and that's good. But real friends are useless to you. They don't profit your business. You just love these people. And you need to have a lot of real friends, which takes work, and it takes time away from your ordinary work, as a matter of fact.
So here's a question. When you advise those very successful people, find these relationships, invest in them, and they say, I don't have time, I'm running a company, these people depend on me, this is how we pay the bills. What do you say?
I say I have the data on this, and the more that you actually spend time in the relationships, the more efficient and productive you will become. The people who say I don't have time for friendship or for my family, they're spending the 14th hour of the office as opposed to the first hour with their kids. I know what's happening in that 14th hour. You know what it is? Nothing. There's no productivity going on in that 14th hour. You're tired. But the point is you don't have a relationship with those people. And so it's easier to be at the office than the first hour with your demanding children or with friends that you don't even know what to talk about. And so the point is you need to apportion your time and set up your time and your schedule in the same wise way that you would your own business.
Right.
You wouldn't actually assign 14 hours of work to one of your employees, I hope.
Let's hope.
You're assigning 14 hours of work to yourself. That's a mistake.
So since you've known so many happy, successful people, hopefully, what is something that you should never do in the morning if you want to stay happy? Or is that the one thing?
Yeah, 3 basic rules. So the time, it shouldn't ever be in the first hour of the day. You should never look at social media in the first hour of the day, because that's when neurocognitive programming is most important. That's when you're setting the theme for the rest of your day. Your brain is starting to work consciously during that period. You also shouldn't look at it in the last hour of the day, because you'll wreck your sleep architecture. The saddest thing that I ever see is a couple lying in bed and they're both looking at their phones at social media, because that's really isolating. It's really bad for your marriage, but it's also bad for your brain.
But what advice do you have for people to make that platform, if not beneficial, less harmful?
You can make it beneficial. You absolutely can, but you have to put guardrails around it. So
time?
Yeah, time to begin with. When you're looking at it during the day, the total amount and what you're using it for. Those are so that's really important, is when you're doing it. I recommend that looking at social media for not more than 60 minutes a day across all platforms summed together, and doing it during a time that you designate to look at social media. Say, okay, the next 20 minutes, I'm going to look at Instagram.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do. Look at Instagram I'm going to do it on purpose. I'm not going to do it accidentally. And it's not just going to be because I'm sitting on the train. It's going to be, I've decided that the 20 minutes that I'm on the train, that's my Instagram time, and do it on purpose. Now, what you'll find is that Instagram is super boring. You didn't know that because you had unlimited access to it and you were using it to distract you.
Yeah.
So that means that you need to use it for particular ends. Unfollow everybody you don't know. Everybody that you don't know who's just an influencer or
A celebrity.
that stuff is not worth your time.
Except you, right? We have to follow you.
Well, there's three things to do on social media, which is learning, loving, and laughing. So to follow people and accounts where you're learning something that you really want to know about. You know, if you're a scientist like I am, then I'm following science accounts. Right now I'm working on a book on relationships, and so I'm following people from all over the world that give relationship advice. Some of it terrible, but I learned from it. The second is loving. Follow people that you actually know and love. Family members, friends, follow those people and interact with them on social media, but not people you don't know unless you're learning from them.
Right.
And last is laughing, or is sort of dessert after the meal of social media. Is you got a couple of people that you follow you think are just completely hilarious.
I see.
But nothing else. Learning, loving, and laughing. And that's it. And no more than an hour a day. And during those times, and your life will change.
Okay. Well, I did delete Instagram from my phone a couple months ago, and
Did you?
I've been so much more productive and happier.
Really?
Yes.
You've been happier.
I
Was it
have
hard
been
at first?
No, because I wasn't really on it that much to begin with.
Okay.
But I just noticed every time I looked at it, I wouldn't be...
It would suck you in a little bit.
Yeah, and I would be thinking about things, which I didn't want to waste my time on.
Right.
So I highly recommend people.
What do you think? So what about your child?
She's 6. She's never going to be on. Until I can control it.
We'll talk again in 10 years. There's lots of things that you can actually do that marginally do that. But the big one, of course, is technology. That's the big thing to do.
Email too?
Well, you know, what I recommend for some people, so, you know, you're in this line of work, in Korea, so you need to look at it and say, okay, it's okay, but put it down immediately. When you know that nothing's on fire, you can put down your phone and then not look at it for an hour. So nothing.
So there's a saying that in order to be happy, you just need a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I tell them to sleep more. I tell them to get into the gym. Very, very good for your brain. Very good for your happiness. It's really good for that. So if people are just starting out, go walk outside for an hour. I recommend getting up before dawn. If the sun is already warm, you've lost the first battle. So get up at least half an hour before dawn, and so you can, especially if you're walking outside, the sun comes up. This will change your brain.
Do you get up at dawn?
I get up at 4:30 every day.
Oh, wow.
So that's before dawn all year round.
Is that sustainable though?
Yeah, it really is once you get used to it. And that starts the night before.
Wow,
I go to bed at 9. Say, I don't take work dinners.
With a work dinner.
With a work dinner. And, you know, it messes you up. And then I recommend some meditation time, some reading, or some worship, depending on what your behavior is, what your beliefs are. So as a Catholic, I go to Mass every morning after I exercise, 6:30 every morning. And that's really, really important to me because that's the soul part of it. Some people read something profound, not work stuff, something deep, something really worthwhile, or they meditate.
Yeah.
All of those things are good to do. And by the way, no coffee before the end of that period. So if you're exercising and then using your spiritual time, all of that is unobstructed by chemicals.
I see.
It's really important for your brain. And the other thing about it is that a lot of people use coffee to wake up, and that's a mistake. You should use it to focus as opposed to waking up. And that means you need a couple of hours between waking up and when you drink your caffeine so that you can use it to focus your brain. And that makes you much more productive and a lot happier. Is one of the things. Okay. So that's when I eat and drink coffee after all that is done. And then I get 4 unobstructed hours of productive creative work, which I would have only had 2 if I were leaving my brain to what it was doing before. So I recommend some sort of protocol like that, and almost everybody can get good benefits.
I see. So is that what your morning looks like?
That's what my morning looks like.
So set the scene for me.
Right.
The alarm rings. It's 4:30.
4:30.
Ungodly hour for me.
It's early.
So what happens? What do you do?
I get up, I go downstairs, I make an electrolyte water mixture, and I work out for an hour. I work out from 4:45 to 5:45.
Are you listening to something?
Sometimes not. I try to at least 2 or 3 times a week not be listening to something because it's actually good for your brain to work out without headphones.
Right.
And sometimes I do because I'm trying to learn something. I'm not just like zoning out. I'm trying to actually learn something, but something that's not too hard. If it's too hard, I won't learn it because your blood pressure is moving up and down as you're exercising and it distracts you. So it has to be the right kind of thing that I'm learning. Or, you know, sometimes music. The whole point is that sometimes silence is best. That's really good for your brain. 5:45, I'm done. I take a shower. I go to Mass with my wife. We're there at 6:30, from 6:30 to 7.
So you do spiritual and family relationship at once.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing.
And then I come back by 7:30. And if I'm working at home, which I do sometimes, either I drive to my office, which is pretty near my home, or when I'm actually at my home, that's when I make coffee and I have a very, very high protein breakfast. Protein is really important for focus. And then I will get from 7:30 to 11:30, 4 hours of incredible focus and productivity.
Because you've already woken up.
I've optimized my brain chemistry.
And you've worked out
Right.
spiritually,
Right.
mind and body.
And my
so you're-
caffeine isn't in there yet.
I see.
And I
And
pour
so
the
you're-
caffeine on top of that.
And focus.
Yeah, what that does is that actually draws dopamine into the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which gives you creativity and focus.
Without having that social media give it to you
Yeah,
effect.
why would you waste your productivity and your
Right.
focus on somebody's idiotic Instagram feed? That's just a big mistake.
Okay, for you, let's say that you had a month off, free from all obligation. How would you choose to spend that time?
Yeah, so I could take a month off, free from all, because I have a lot of control at this age of my own life. The last couple of times I've taken a month off, I walked the Camino de Santiago, which is a long walk across
of
northern
course.
Spain. It's a pilgrimage. It's
Yes.
a religious pilgrimage, and all you're doing is walking and praying and thinking
And being with yourself.
And
Right.
it has been incredibly generative. Now,
How many times have you done
twice.
this?
2019 and 2021 I did it, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. My wife doesn't love it, I have to say, because just walking for weeks and weeks is not her cup of tea.
Do you talk while you walk?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
For sure. And we spend a lot of time together, and it's really good for our marriage, for sure. But I mean, it's like she likes the beach and likes doing normal things
Yeah.
as well. But that's really what I like to do, because it gives me philosophical time. And there's a lot of research that shows that pilgrimages, whether they're secular or religious,
Right.
they're very, very good for the brain, very good for the mind, very good for the soul. And I recommend that everybody take time away. And if you don't know what to do and you have a lot of unanswered questions in your life, go for a long walk. That's the most human thing you can do.
So you mentioned that you go visit the Dalai Lama almost every year.
Almost every year, yeah.
What have you learned about life from your time with him?
Yeah, the Dalai Lama and I have known each other for the past 13 years, and it's been a wonderful and rewarding relationship. I brought him to the States several times, and I've gone to his home in Dharamsala in the Himalayan foothills, where he has his monastery. And we've written together, we've written articles together, we've shot a documentary film together, and it's been a really beautiful relationship. So I've learned so very much from him. And what I've learned from him is this idea that life requires that we have goals and direction, so that we can have direction, so we can go in a particular direction and make progress. But we shouldn't be attached to the thing that we're looking for. Everybody watching us, all the strivers who are watching us, they have all these big goals in their life and dreams, and great. I admire that so much. The Dalai Lama says that's intention. You need intention in your life. That gives you purpose and meaning and focus, and that's great. But don't be attached to that. Always say to yourself, I have these goals. It's going to be that or something better. And that's a Buddhist concept called intention without attachment. And that's really changed my life. It's really changed my life a lot, because I'm such a hard worker, and I'm always going in as many miles an hour as I possibly can. I mean, bring it on, bring it on. But I recognize that the ultimate outcome is a little bit out of my control. I believe it's in God's hand. And so I pray every day. I say, I'm working for something that I want, but not my will, your will, because I know
Right.
your will will be better than mine. And even if you're not religious, you can do that as well. The Dalai Lama is not praying to God like I am, but he says you need to have intention toward a goal and not be attached to the goal itself. That's the right frame of mind for everybody in business. That's what all the greatest CEOs do. If you're focusing on the result and not the process, your company's going to fall apart.
But have the intent.
Have the intent, absolutely. But if you have the intent, and then you design the process to meet the goal, and then you focus on the process, you're going to get the goal or something better.
What are some of the qualities of the happiest people that you've met?
There are 4 behaviors that I see of the happiest possible people. These are people who practice their faith or life philosophy seriously. These are people who take care of their family relationships. They're paying attention to their families, not neglecting their families, and not having bitterness inside their families. These are people who have real friends, not deal friends. These are people who are doing the work, and these are people who are dedicating their work to just 2 things: earning their success, which is to say creating real value, and serving other people. That's what they have. And I don't care if they're plumbers or politicians or professors, CEOs or journalists or anything in between. You need to believe that you're doing something that creates value, and you're being recognized for it, and that you're serving other people. And those are the big 4: faith, family, friends, and work. Those are the behaviors that will give you better circumstances and give you the most happiness that you can possibly get.
Okay, so it seems like finding the meaning and sharing that with other people.
For sure. I mean, that's really what the happiest people that I meet, and there are so many. About half of it is genetic.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
and I don't want that to be true.
Okay.
So we know this from identical twins that are separated at birth and adopted into separate families, and they're reunited as adults. So you can find that most of their personalities is actually genetically predetermined, including their happiness. But by the way, that's okay, because if you know anything about yourself genetically, you can manage your circumstances to manage your genetics. I mean, people who have alcoholic parents, they tend to be more alcoholic, but that means they should know that so they can not drink, because you can actually change the
Right.
outcome by doing by behavior. Another quarter of your happiness is circumstantial. So nice circumstances lead to greater happiness, and not nice circumstances lead to the opposite. But those are transient. It turns out that circumstances don't last very long. So if bad things are happening, it won't last. If good things are happening, it won't last.
Right.
It comes down to, and one of the reasons that I teach leadership and happiness at the Harvard Business School, because I want to create happiness teachers like me. I want people to see their leadership careers. And by the way, there's a secret to that too, which is when leaders actually become happiness teachers, the leaders get happier.
Right.
The secret.
How do you become happier ever since you started teaching?
So much happier. I'm 60% happier than I was when I started teaching happiness, as a matter of fact. And I measure it every year. I have good measurement techniques for that. And it turns out that it absolutely works.
How do you measure it?
Well, you measure it by asking for example, here's a classic question. Imagine a scale between 0 and 10. 0 is the unhappiest person you know. Think about that person. Okay. 10 is the happiest person you've ever met. Think of that person.
Got it.
What's your number? And what's your number, but not right now, at this point in your life, more or less. Not on your best day, not on your worst day, but really on the average day. And when you think about it, you're going to get a number in your head. And that number is very stable. It moves around a little bit, but not that much. Unless you change your circumstances a lot, and systematically so. And that's what's happened to me. I've moved up by about 60% since I've been teaching happiness and dedicating myself to bringing this to people all around the world. This is my secret to happiness.
I think that since you shared it with more people, including in Korea, then we can all become more happier.
Thank you. Thanks to all my friends in Korea. I can't wait to see you in person. I would love to come over.
So, Professor Brooks, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being with me.
유쾌하시고 너무 인사이트가 많으신 교수님 덕분에 유익한 시간이 되었던 것 같습니다. 이게 실현 가능할까 싶은 그런 행동도 조언을 해주셨는데 한번 해보고 싶은 그런 마음이 생겼습니다. 너무 좋은 시간이었어요. 다음에는 더 유익한 시간으로 돌아오겠습니다. 시청해주셔서 감사합니다.